Hello again, Education 1030 students. So I don't know when you're watching this, but it is actually Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day if you're watching this today. I wanted to make this video to talk about the capstone, the Unit 1 capstone. So we have actually almost completed the whole Unit 1. So every 4 chapters, at the end of that, we will have a unit exam and what we call a capstone. So you'll have 3 units in this course. And all this information was laid out in Module 1, but I just wanted to kind of remind you and refresh as far as how the units are laid out. So Unit 1 consisted of chapters 1, 12, 3, and 4. So at the end of the unit, we have an exam, of course, but we also have what we call a capstone. And I wanted to go over the capstone and also the exam and talk about that a little bit as well. So to get to the capstone, what you're going to do is click on course information and select content. Once you do that, on the left side under the table of contents, you'll see there we have chapter 1, 12, 3, and 4. Underneath chapter 4, you're going to see Unit 1 capstone, written analysis, and exam 1 review materials, and exam 1. So you'll see this all begins on February 17th. Okay, so it's not going to start till the 17th, but I wanted to make you aware it will start this Friday. You will have access to this. But I wanted to go ahead and let you look at what we're going to be doing. So what we do with the exam is we really try to test you on all the chapters in the unit. The capstone is really something that's going to help you really analyze and summarize what you've learned in the unit. So it's kind of an addition to the exam. So we don't have a midterm in this course, a midterm test or exam. So the capstones really will play that role for you. So they are worth a lot of points, so just keep that in mind. So that's going to be, the capstones would be in place of a midterm. So at the end of each unit, you're really going to be able to summarize and analyze what you've learned. So I wanted to first start with the capstone, and then we'll go into the exam review. So if you click on the first one, it's going to show you the rubric. Okay, so this is going to be under Unit 1 Capstone Written Analysis. So I'm going to pull up the rubric. Now this is worth 60 points. So you'll see here that there's different sections or criteria, if you will, of what you're going to be graded on. Okay, so you have the first section or criteria we're going to be looking at is your reflection and grammar. So anytime that you're writing a paper analysis, a lot of times you have a reflection component. Also, whenever you write a paper, analysis paper, you're going to have a grade for grammar. So let's look at the first section. The first section, reflections and grammar, is going to be a total of 20 points available. With this, of course, grammar is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go into that. I don't count off too much for minor grammatical errors. This is not Comp 1. This is not a written composition course. So I'm fine with that. We're not taking English. But I do expect you to produce college-level writing. So when I say that, I'm thinking of you're capitalizing at the beginning of sentences. You do not have run-ons. You put periods at the end. You look at your spelling. Okay, how does it flow? So minor errors are fine. You'll even look at the grading scale. But if it's something that is constant or consistent, then I will take off for that. The other thing that I want you to think about is your reflection yourself. Did you address all the questions in the prompt? Did you add insightful ideas? Did you put thought behind your reflection? So you can see here how I'm going to be grading you on that section. Okay, so the second part or criteria is going to cover 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the first section on the bottom is called what? Response to prompts. This is basically looking at your response to the prompts or the questions. Did you give me a description? Did it reveal a lot about the situation? Were you adding to it? Did you give factual? Was it in sequence? Did it make sense? Then we're looking at so what? Insights and understanding. So this is really looking at yourself. You're relating your content. You're aware of the issues. You're aware of the situations. You're relating the content to you. And any issues, implications that you have for yourself is addressed. The next part is now what? Commitment and challenge. So what I'm looking here when I grade you on this, I really want you to have some kind of plan of action. You know, your next steps moving forward, looking into the future. So I want to see your commitment. So you got to have a plan. So the prompts are guided that way to let you see not only your reflections, but your next steps moving forward and how you're relating the content moving forward. The last section or component is progress and development. Now the first one's a little tricky. I don't really grade you too heavily on this the first time around because I don't have a lot to compare it to. But keep in mind, whenever we have the second and third capstones, I will be able to look at your growth. I will look at your progress because that's going to give me something to compare it to. But I will look at your goals and your plan of actions. I will look at your implications for the future. So those sorts of things I will be looking at. As far as the growth of your personal development, that's going to come throughout the term. So that is going to be everything that I'm looking for in terms of the rubric, how I'm grading you in each section. The next thing I want to look at is going to be the capstone itself. So to get to the capstone itself, if you go back to the table of contents and you're on Unit 1 capstone, when you click in it, you have the rubric, which is what we just went over, but you also have the Unit 1 capstone written analysis. This is the actual capstone itself. If you look at the description box within the assignment, you will see there is a link to the Dropbox. There's also a link to the Word document, the rubric for grading. I also want to note, you can also submit it without the link. If you go to assessments and hit Dropbox, okay, yours is going to look a little different, so let me put it in student view. Now keep in mind, it's not open yet, so it may be blacked out, but I did want you to see your view. So when you click on Dropbox, you're going to see, oh, it is open, written analysis. So Unit 1 capstone written analysis, that's where you'll submit it. So let's go ahead and look at the actual capstone itself. So I want you to think of this as a paper. This is a written analysis. Now some students choose to use this document. Whenever you click on the document, you can hit download, which is what I did, and it brought this up, just like you do for your chapter assignments. If you choose to write a paper outside of this analysis, that's completely fine. I do want to make sure that you are following the correct format, which is meaning I want you to use 12-pinch font size. Use at least 1.5 line spacing. When you're writing your written analysis, your paper, I want you to reflect back and think about everything you've learned in chapters 1, 12, 3, and 4. You're going to respond to these prompts in narrative sentences. So what narrative sentences mean is that you are going to put this in first person. This is reflecting back on you. So this content has to be relating to your life. That's what narrative is, first person. So once you figure out the 1-inch margins, you use 12-pint font size, you use 1.5 line spacing, be cautious of grammar, and your sentences should be complete. So I want complete responses. Think about when you write a paper. A paragraph usually will consist of 3 or sometimes even 4 or more sentences. That's what I want when you are responding to these prompts. Be mindful that when you are completing this relies on the textbook, so you need to get the textbook out when you're responding because you're going to connect the content in the chapters or in the text. So you will need your Understanding Your College Experience textbook. So on the first section for Chapter 1 prompt, it's going to ask you about the tech tip. It even shows you on some pages of what to go to on which page that is talking about. So on tech tip, that's going to be in the back of that chapter. That's going to be talking about any tech tips it gives you. Sometimes it's related to email, sometimes it may be related to saving documents. There's lots of different tech tips throughout the chapters and throughout the textbook itself. So on this one, we're looking at netiquette. Netiquette is what you do when you are online writing or communicating with other people. So this one's specifically talking about email, how you communicate with your professors in college. It wants you to show or tell the 5 things that you should be doing when you're emailing your instructor. Tell me why these are important. Will you have to change some of your current practices to meet these standards? So that's answering the first part. Now, if you'll look here, I want to note there are 2 parts, 2 prompts within Chapter 1. There are 2 prompts within Chapter 12. Chapter 3 only has 1. Chapter 4 has 2 prompts. We always end our capstone with a summary, where you're going to summarize and connect all 4 chapters together. So going back up to Chapter 1 prompt, develop your career story. This is going to go back and relate to your career. So it says, based on the career interest inventory on page 28 and the homework you submitted, so you'll have to go back and look at your homework that you saved. What were the top 3 career choices that career interest inventory gave you? Which one were you most excited or interested in exploring? And if your career choice was not listed on that inventory, which one on that list sounds interesting to you to explore and why? Chapter 12 prompt, your tech tip. This one's talking about researching trends on careers. So thinking about your college major, linked with what careers and how much it pays, and a few things you need to learn about and learn more about with that career. So you're going to spend some time exploring your careers. On page 288 in the book, it gives you occupational searches like ONET. So I want you to follow this prompt and complete what it says. So when you're looking at ONET, that is a wonderful resource for you to look at how do you search your careers. You search your learning environment. You search what are the hours and days, what kind of schooling and education do you need, how much does it pay. Those sorts of things you need to be looking at. You need to go back and look at those top 3 career choices from that career inventory on the list. And which one of these sounds good? Think about exploring that career choice on ONET. And I want you to understand the job market for your career choice. What does it look like? What are your majors? What's the average pay? Things like that. I want you to discuss and talk about those things. So I wanted to show you ONET really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So if you were to open up your browser and you're going to put a capital O *net, I wanted to show you what ONET Online looks like. It's really neat. So how you'll search this is you'll search one of those careers from the career inventory list, or if your career wasn't listed on there, you can put one in there. So let's say that yours was nursing. RN. registered nurse. I want you to see what it brought up. So it really gives you a summary of the job, like what are the tasks you'll have to do, what kind of technology skills are important that you master for this job. What are your work activities? See here, you'll be assisting and caring for others. You're going to document and record information. What are your detailed work activities? Okay, what's the work context? Meaning, how much contact will you have with other people? Will you be on the telephone? Will you have a lot of face-to-face discussions? Will you be inside or outside? Okay, it talks about training credentials. You can actually search your credentials of what you need based on the state you will be in when you're working. So you could even look up Tennessee, if you will. What kind of skills do you need? Well, you need to be a critical thinker. You need to be an active listener. You have to be socially aware of others. You got to be coordinated. You have to have service orientation. What are your knowledge base you have to have? What's your education? What are some of the abilities you have to have? The interests, your work values, your work styles. Then you get into your wages and employment. And again, you can look up your payment or your salary scale annually by the state in which you'd like to work. Okay, and then it gives you some sources of additional information. Now, I wanted to remind you here, you do have some content within these tabs, like more details. It will give you you can search custom things. So there's lots of ways you can really utilize this tab to get even more detailed, if you will. So that's how you're going to be searching that career. So the whole point of what you're doing to answer Chapter 12 Tech Tip is to really use that ONET to look at those career interests or your major and tell me about those sorts of things. The next one is also related to your career story. So you're going to use one of the online search tools, such as Career One Stop, Indeed.com, something of that sort. And you're going to list your career, and you're going to put the city in which you would like to work and find a job. You will list 2 companies and job titles that interest you. So I want 2 different companies and their job titles. What were the determining factors for you in choosing those 2 companies in which you would like to work? So that means what's important of what determined why you chose that company. What stuck out to you? Okay, Chapter 3, Prompt. This is also going to be develop your career story. Again, I want to note you only have one section here to write about. So this one is a cost of living in the total amount of money. So cost of living is, in the simplest way to put the definition, it is how much does it cost you to live in the city where you want to live. So when we talk about the cost of living, we look at housing, food, gas, insurance, things that you have to live. And you have to look at how much you get paid. Is your salary enough to cover your cost of living? Now, some people don't spend a lot, they save a lot, so they can make it on less than other people. So you have to really look at your lifestyle as well. The cost of living, you also need to calculate in when you're out in your job, do you have kids? Those things are important to think about too, because the cost of living, you have to calculate. If it's just one person in your household, is it 2? Are you taking care of a little family? So these are things you have to look at, because that is going to determine how much money you have to live. So in order to do this, you're going to use the cost of living calculator. So you could use NerdWallet to do this. You can also use CNN. You're going to type in the median or average salary. Now you should be able to have gotten that from ONET. The salary in the state you want to live. So take that salary and you're going to input it into CNN or the NerdWallet. You can also find median salaries on Google search for the type of state you want to live in. So let's say you do nursing. Nursing salary in Georgia. And it'll bring up nursing salary in California, in Florida. And it'll tell you what that median salary is. Think about the city in which you would like to live. I also want you to look at the cost of living where you are now. Then compare it to another city in which you might want to live after you graduate. If you don't want to move, that's fine. You can just get the cost of living where you are now. I want you to look at, can you afford the type of lifestyle you desire in that city based on what you're going to make in your career? Now think about how many people are in your household. Do you want to rent? Do you want to own your own home? Do you like to go out for entertainment a lot? Do you like to eat out a lot? These are things you have to consider. And that's what you're going to tell me about. Chapter 4, Tech Tip. So on the Chapter 4 Tech Tip, you're going to be looking at discovering your learning style. So we're going to go back and look at that. So you actually right now are working in Chapter 4. So this is really fresh for you. You're going to look at your academic career at Water State and beyond if you go to a four-year university. As of now, when you took the VARC inventory, the MBTI, you took the multiple intelligence inventory, that gives you a good idea of what type of learner you are. Think about the features in our learning management system, eLearn. Think about some of the functions eLearn has. Does that work really well for your learning style? So we have lots of different technology uses inside of eLearn. You can email, you have PowerPoints, you have videos. There's lots of different tools. You can do skill labs in some of your courses with ebooks. There's all different sorts of needs students have to have met by the instructor. But I want you to solely focus on your learning style. Think about those features in learning system eLearn. Are those functionings in eLearn working with your learning style? The next part of Chapter 4 is develop your career story. So you, on this section, are going to discuss your weaknesses and your strengths. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses is really important for you as a type of learner. This knowledge is going to help you prepare for the future and prepare for applying for a job. So one of the questions they may ask you in an interview when you're applying for a job, inside the interview they may ask you, what are some of your strengths? They may say, what's a weakness that you have and something you need to improve on? So it's important for us to know this information about ourselves. Some of us may have never asked or reflected upon this before, so this is a really good exercise for you. I want you to ask 2 people that you trust and that know you really well, and I want them to give their objective opinion about your 3 greatest strengths and 3 greatest weaknesses. Now, they may not list 3, they may list 2, but ask them to give you at least 2 to 3. And I want you to list those and discuss them. So discuss what your strengths are and discuss what your weaknesses are. And does this line up with what you think about yourself? The last part of your paper is going to be your summary. Your summary, like I said in the beginning, is really connecting all 4 chapters together. So we're going to be looking at our college resources is what we did in Chapter 1. In Chapter 12, we learned about career planning. Chapter 3 learned about time management. We learned about where we expend our energy. In Chapter 4, we really dove into your different learning styles. I want you to describe how all these connect and how are they going to affect your future college experience and even beyond. How is this knowledge going to help you moving forward? Think about, this is just your first semester for some of us. Some of us maybe not, because you've had maybe dual enrollment college courses. Some of us, you may be coming back to college after so many years. Some of us will be coming out of high school, so this is your college experience, your first college experience. So moving forward into future semesters and moving on to four-year university, if that's what you choose, think about that when I say future college experience. Think about how this knowledge you've gained in these 4 chapters can help you. And I want to see those connections. Remember, a written analysis is like a paper. I want paragraphs. I'm fine if you choose to download this and write in here. but I don't want one sentence answers. This is not a short answer. A written analysis is like a paper. I expect it to be as such, meaning that you need to write it in the form of a paper with paragraphs. Think about your flow. Think about your grammar, your spelling. One tool that might help you is a website called Grammarly. I don't know if anyone's ever used it. It's really neat. You can upload your paper and it really looks at your spelling, your grammar, your format. Now the free section only can do so much, like spelling and grammar, and look at the way you form your sentences, but it doesn't get into context. It doesn't get into flow too much. So that might be a tool to help you. Again, it's called Grammarly. So just be mindful of that as well. Alright, so you don't have to do any citations here, even though we're using some outside resources. I'm not going to make you do that on this written analysis. I'm going to be looking at that content. That is all that I have for you on the capstone. Now I want to turn our attention to the exam review. So let's go back to course information and select content. And we're going to still be in the same section, Unit 1 Capstone Written Analysis and Exam 1 Review. So if you'll scroll down, you'll see it starts this Friday. So the exam review materials I provided here for you are going to help you review for your exam. So I wanted to know, once the exam opens on the 21st, okay, so the exam is going to stay open for a window of time. So it's going to open on February 21st. It's going to close on February 23rd. So once it opens, the Quizlets will no longer be available for you to use. But your review sheets and your reading organizers will stay open. So go ahead and when it opens, the exam review opens, start studying. So I wanted to show you a few of the resources available for you to help you study. Now remember, you're not coming to school or class to take this test. You'll be taking this on your own just like you do at home with your quizzes. The only difference with the exam is you have only one shot. You do not get to take the exam multiple times. You only get to take it one time. So you have one attempt at this. Once you start it and you hit begin quiz or begin test or exam, the time will start, so just keep that in mind. I have here for you an exam review sheet. Now, a review sheet does not give you a bunch of information. It's just giving you keywords, things that we will test you on. So it's going to be over chapter 1, 12, 3, and 4. For instance, it'll say Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You will look in chapter 4 where it talks about that. So these are just keywords and concepts that's in the content itself to say, hey, I need to go back and study that. So this is the list of things that you will be tested on. The next tool is going to be the reading organizers. Now, I mentioned this at the very start, and I mentioned this in a weekly update videos as well. The reading organizers are so important for you as a student to use. Reading organizers are like outlines. They just state the most important information in the chapter. It's a really wonderful way for students to study. So if you haven't been completing those, from here on out, I would like you to. No, you do not turn these in. You will only turn one in, and I will let you know when that is. This is a wonderful opportunity to use. If you've already been doing this throughout the chapters and throughout this time so far, you are really going to find that that benefited you a lot. So you have the reading organizers here for you once again for the 4 chapters in the unit. I also put a video here for you. Let's go back, table of contents. After you do the reading organizer and exam review sheets, there will also be Quizlets, which I talked to you about. Quizlets are a wonderful study tool. Quizlets have matching, there's practice tests, you have flashcards. So let's go ahead and click on each one so you can get an idea of how useful it is for a study tool. So the Unit 1 Quizlet, you can start game. The Quizlet matching is where you will kind of match content together. So you're going to match concepts with the correct term that it goes with. So if you click start game, you're going to see some words or sentences here. And you're going to match, and you have a time, and you're going to match them and make them go away, okay? So the first one, college students are expected to take their initiative to visit their instructor during office hours. Is this true or false? True. If you get it correct, it will turn green, and it will disappear. If you get it wrong, it will turn red, but you have time to keep doing it. How often must you complete the free application federal student aid? That's the FAFSA. So I'm going to say every year. Done. An example of organizing your time wisely is what? So let's say I hit visual. Wrong. So you're going to try to choose which one matches and try to beat your time. The next one is a Quizlet Learn. So this is just giving you fill in the blank. Sometimes there may be true and false in here. So you have to fill in the correct term in the fill in the blank. It says blank is your desire to make an effort, evaluation, or thinking. So you also have transition and motivation. Blank is your desire to make an effort. Which one of these terms is correct? So let's choose motivation. Correct. Okay, so this is just going to give you like sample tests, which is really neat. The next one is example test. It gives you kind of like true and false, fill in the blank, which is not correct. It will also give you multiple choice questions. So it gives you a sample test as well. The next one is really neat. It's flashcards. Flashcards are like index cards. So you have the term in the front, the back side tells you the correct definition. So those are things that are going to help you as well. Okay, and then once you go through your study tools, you'll see the link to the exam. It's not available yet. As you'll see, it says the start date and when it ends, and the due date. So you'll see here, it's going to start February 21st, okay, at 12 a.m. It's going to end the same time it's due. So when it's due, that's when it's going to close and end. So you only have that one time to do it. So you will have 50 minutes. There are 60 questions. Once you begin the test, you can't go back and retake it. So make sure you're prepared and study before you ever click on the exam. So you're only allowed one attempt. Okay guys, that's all I have for you. I hope that this video helped you. I hope you were able to understand what I'm wanting for the analysis paper, the written analysis, and I also hope that you are able to utilize these exam review tools, which I feel will be very beneficial for you. Don't forget on the exam to study. A lot of students make the mistake of thinking just because it's open book, I can go ahead and not study. The thing about that way of thinking is it can get you into trouble. This is a timed exam. If you spend most of your time trying to flip through your book or look up PowerPoints, it's going to make it harder for you and your time's going to go away a lot faster. So keep that in mind. So it's still important for you to study. Okay, so that's everything. I hope that you guys have a great week. Don't forget, Chapter 4 is due Thursday, 11:30. So just keep that in mind. And don't forget, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, especially about the written analysis paper. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.